Wyoming's best adventure starts in Wind River Country, located in western Wyoming, just beyond Yellowstone National Park and the Grand Teton Mountains. Wind River Country is the place to go to get away from the crowds, unplug, unwind, and find room to roam. Wyoming's Wind River Country, Yellowstone's unique neighbor.
Welcome back. I'm Shireen, the Adventure Queen, and today we're taking you on a truly special journey, recording right from the fields, barns, and hands that feed our community. Because while many of us are gathered around our tables, this podcast brings you right to ground zero of where real local food begins. In this first podcast, you'll hear us at Country Meadows Dairy. Then we'll head over to Melissa Hoff's farm, where we learned about her chickens. And I have to say, we had an absolutely gourmet garlic tasting experience. So as you listen, imagine the smell of fresh grass, cheese aging in the cool air, garlic drying, roosters crowing, and the heartbeat of Wyoming agriculture. So let's jump in. We'll start by visiting our friends at Country Meadows Dairy.
We have a sampling here of different cheeses that I make and berries, and then we also have some steaks. Anyway, just come and dig in, and we can tell you about our family a little bit and how we ended up here. We're the Franciscos. I've been getting into cheese making because I ended up with tons of milk, and it wasn't selling as quickly as I thought. And cheese is really, it's a need, right? It's not a want, it's a need. And I was experimenting with lots of different things. The soft cheeses, we have a green onion and garlic, and then this is a pesto. And this is a raspberry, which is so yummy. And those are easy. I do cheese making classes at Meadowlark once in a while or at the house, and then the cheddar is the square goldeny color ones. And that's been aging for 6 weeks is all. And it has such a nice sharp flavor that I was just delighted. So I vacuum packed it, and I didn't let my kids eat it, and I saved it for today. And then the Swiss is just a different process, different culture, different temperatures, and it ends up looking different and tasting different. Those 5 cheeses are the homemade things, and then the 2 steak bites. If you take the cheese from the middle of the bowl, it hasn't touched the bread, but those hard cheeses also are fine if you're gluten insensitive. So let me talk a little bit about raw milk, because I think that is such an amazing, miraculous product. So we have Jersey cows. Here's Billie Jean right here behind you. She's super curious, and Ellie is right over there. Eleanor Rigby is over there, and they give us about 6 to 8 gallons a day together. We just milk once a day, and we don't pasteurize it. So it comes out of the cow, it goes through the strainer just to make sure, and the strainer's usually always clean. There's no hay or any little bits of dirt. And then it goes right into the jars, right in an ice bath, cools down, goes into the fridge. It's so pure. But there's something really cool about raw milk because you're keeping the beneficial bacteria, because it's all about the conditions of the cow, the conditions of its health, the conditions of its feed, the pasture, and then the milking process. And so if you can limit any kind of variables, then you will have a clean quality product. But I test my milk. In fact, I have a batch in there right now I did this morning. So I know that the milk is clean. I know it has 0 coliforms, which would be E. coli, salmonella, these listeria. It's 0. And so that's awesome to me, that not only is there a safe, wonderful product that's a health product, but it's also, I know that I can trust it. I know that it's safe because I don't change my method, and the cows are healthy, and we get them vet checked and stuff. So anyway, that's about raw milk. That's why we love it. The cheeses only go up to 120 for the Swiss and 102 for the cheddar. So they're not even pasteurized, but they're clean. They're good. We know.
Who's ever been to a commercial dairy? Like, our cows are on pasture all the time. On a small scale like this, it's clean. Well, they can lay down in the grass. So anyway, that just takes care of a lot of the problems.
My friends from high school's parents owned a dairy farm in Pennsylvania, and it wasn't like commercial like what you're saying. But their lives were really evolved about milking. And they used to milk twice a day, early in the morning and then in the evening. But you don't do that?
That's a good question. Yeah. And that's one reason why people don't want cows, is because it's like, I can't be tied to that. Cows, just like humans, are supply and demand. And so we get them, when they have a calf, they start their milk just like humans. And so once they've had their calf, then they've got 3 days of colostrum. and the calf is drinking it, and we don't mess with that. And then whatever we choose to take from them is what they'll produce. We don't want too much milk because I don't want to make more cheese. Like the market is too small in Lander to support more. So I left Layla on, if you can see our song lyric theme here. She just got put down with the other cows at 4 months old. And I am going to start selling the aged cheddar at Meadowlark. I have some rounds under the house aging right now. So yeah, Country Meadows, it's a circle and it just says Country Meadows Dairy. It's just it's a label on the jar and on the lid and on the yogurt and stuff. Okay, should we go and look around? Here we go. All right, so this is the cow milking area.
Yeah, it's quite the process.
There's the cow. This is a beautiful place to live. Okay, so this is the cow milking area. They eat out there, they drink out there, they can have shelter from weather and stuff in here. This is the stanchion. They get in there and then you can close down these head catches. We have this milk machine that we attach to buckets that have a claw on it.
That creates the vacuum.
And so they spend about 6 to 7 minutes in the stanchion in the morning, and then they go right back out. I'll show you in this milk room next door where we do the processing of it. Just come all the way in. We'll see how many people we can fit. So this is where we'll bring the buckets of milk once they're done. And we jar everything. We wash everything really carefully. Even if it comes back washed, we rewash it. And then we put it through this strainer. So it goes through, it catches any like straw or any kind of dirt. And then this would catch any other smaller things. Lately, we haven't had a thing in this, so it's really good. We're staying super clean. And then this is the lab. So we've got a little incubator here, and we have there was a drop of cream. But this is the coliform test. So far, it's totally clean. It's only been a couple hours, but I'll check it at 24 hours, and then I'll know, like, that batch was totally fine. So we cool it off in the sink here, and then we put it in the fridge here, and then I take it to the market. So that's the dairy part of the operation, but there's a lot else going on here. The cows we've found have been sort of the hub of the farm. They provide the milk for the pig. They provide the compost that we use in the garden. They graze. We have a lot of extra things because of the cows. But we also have sheep, goats, horses, beef cows, and one pig named Porker. So let's go down and we'll explore the bottoms, and Ben can tell you about the horse program that he's working on.
Yeah, let's just walk down. Part of what we're trying to do here too is manage everything without herbicide and pesticide and that sort of stuff. We do use a little bit because nothing eats thistle, let's just be honest. So the horses and the cows and everything are there. You can see them there in that pasture. So we have cows and we have Dorper sheep. There's a big leafy spurge problem in Fremont County, and if people would use sheep and goats, there would be no spurge. So all the money that we pour into herbicides on these things, we could take care of naturally.
So when we bought this place, it was in 2017. We lucked out with finding property and a place, but it was also so overgrown. It was called Overgrown Thistle Ranch, is what my older son wanted to call it. We put in a ton of work on corrals, all of that. The barn was here. I painted it 7 months pregnant. Maybe you can relate. So we initially started just with sheep. We had the Dorper sheep, they're hair sheep. They're good for meat. They taste really nice. You don't have to shear them. And they're low maintenance. My daughter bought some goats because she wanted to be a goat empress. And so we had sheeps and goats. Baby goats are the cutest animal in the world. And then during COVID year is when we bought the milk cows. And then we bought some beef cows that same summer. And then Ben, he's always loved horses. He grew up with horses. And so we just kind of evolved in our horse ownership from the really old, really safe ones to these really young and less safe. All right, now you know that we have song lyrics for our dairy cows. So see if you can guess what the theme is for the horses. So this one with a star on its face, the white stripe, is Patsy. The white one with the curly blonde hair, Taylor Swift. And then Pearl, she's the pearl colored one, for Minnie Pearl. And then we have a Dixie. And what else do we have? We have Johnny Cash.
So
yeah,
there's our pig.
Porker. No.
We're trying something a little different on this one. We're just pasture pasture raising her.
Pigs are very social. We let her be with the sheep, and she's just become a sheep. We still feed her. We give her milk and grain, but...
Jan's raising dairy cows, and we have some beef cows. More to like, when you've got land, you've got to have something that's going to take care of it, right? You're going to mow it or they're going to mow it, right? And so I'd rather get some beef out of something than me doing all the work. So we've got some Angus Hereford crosses, and then we cross them back on a shorthorn bull. We've really enjoyed the meat. It marbles. I don't do any grain finishing or anything like that. Not because I think that it's bad, but I also think that it's just better for them to eat grass and finish that way. So in the winter, you can see this big pile of compost over here. That's where we feed them. We scrape all that stuff up. Then that goes on our garden, right? And so it's this nice kind of symbiotic relationship that we have. But we feed them grass, alfalfa in the winter, and then they just eat grass during the summer. Give them salt and whatever, and that's it. And it takes a little bit longer for them to get to the size that you'd like to butcher them at, about 1,250 pounds. That ends up being about 500 pounds of finished product at the end of all of it. But the beef that you ate up there, the reason that I chose top sirloin and tri-tip is because I wanted you to taste the flavor of it. Ribeyes, a lot of times that you buy in a restaurant, they're laden with fat and they don't taste like anything. And the reason that people like it is because they're getting fat and they're not really tasting the beef. So a grass-fed beef does have a little bit different taste, but I feel like that the flavor's a lot richer. It marbles pretty well, so you get a little bit of fat in it, so it's not just dry meat. So that's why I do grass-raised, grass-finished sort of stuff. Not to say that's the only way to do it or it's the best way to do it. It's just the way that I like it. I like doing it this way. The only time that they're in the corral is if I need to sort them.
Tell about your horses.
So I like to be in the mountains a lot. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about it, but I bought a half draft mare a while ago and she was so nice, but she was just slow. The draft horse gives a little bit of, they think, you can see them thinking, which I like. And I'm just saying that for me, these are the horses that I like. They seem to take to things a lot better. Anyway, so I'm raising half drafts, but I've recently purchased some gaited horses. So I've got a Tennessee Walker and I've got a Foxtrotter, and the plan is that I'm going to cross them back on a draft stud, hopefully get a little bit bigger horse that will walk a little bit better. The faster you can get to camp, that's not a bad thing, right? And so that's what we've got going here.
So gaited horses are fast-walking horses.
Yeah. So Tennessee Walkers and Foxtrotters are the two most common breeds in the United States.
An elk carcass.
I want to be able to put an entire elk on one horse if I have to.
Is that Porker? He'll be, you can pet the pig. He's very friendly.
This is what we do. This is what we enjoy. This is what we love. We didn't talk much about lamb, but that's one thing that we've raised that we really like.
We'll walk back through here so that you can see like the setup for the lamb. It's been a great place. We moved here. Our oldest was, 10? And we have 6 kids. So it's been so magical to have them learn how to work and have chores and learn how to do all these things.
A lot of the things that we do in America for feed are done because they're trying to maximize profits. That's okay. There's a reason for that. But this is a different scenario. Like this pig's twice as old as she would be if she were butchered on the market, but she's healthy. She's been out here grazing, rooting up stuff, eating whatever. Yeah, and we do feed her some grain every day, but that is a nice looking pig as far as for a butcher sized pig. We take that lard, we render that down, and then we use that lard to cook with. So it's a nice situation. This whole hillside right here, if I let that go, that's just nothing but yellow leafy spurge.
And they love it.
They mow that stuff down. It's like candy for them. And so it's great for the land, what we're trying to do.
And so having multi-species grazing is what helps with that, because the cows, they like what they like, and the horses like that plant, and the pig will eat anything, and the goats will eat more of the herbaceous plants than the cows or the horses, and then the sheep too. So the animals can do so much of the work that we create tractors for. We're on year 5 of real farming, but we've been here for 7-8 years. And that's what, at the point that they equalized, the hawks came and ate and it was like, okay, it does take time to balance and nature makes it happen. So we've had a huge vole problem up in the garden, and they ate all my tulips, but none of the daffodils, and I was so sad about that. They've tunneled everywhere. There were tons of voles. And then now this year we have so many garter snakes because that's what, and it's just let them be. And Henry just loves to catch the garter snakes. They're his favorite. But things balance out if you give it time and patience.
We better let you go.
Yeah, we'll get up to that.
Get up to the buses.
We are going to head out to the poultry coops. And if you guys want to just kind of gather around, there's a lot of us, but I would just ask where we're headed now. We're going to head out to the pastured poultry. So all my poultry are raised on pasture and mobile coops. You'll see all those horse trailers out there. Those are chicken coops. There's certain management standards that they follow, and I'm certified by the American Grass-Fed Association for grass-fed chickens for the management of on pasture. So that's where we're going to be walking out to. This is actually the most people I've had on a tour, so it's going to be difficult. What I've learned is when folks are driving across the state or out of state, they generally want to walk around and look at chickens. So I just make time for it, and they get the kids out of the car, and we go look at chickens and chicken coop styles and things like that. So Melissa House started as a hatchery, a rare breed hatchery. I run 5 different breeds of poultry. We got 4 right here. You can see they're smaller coop sizes and all the chickens look the same, right? That's because they're all the same breed. That's breeder layers as well as their breeding roosters are in those pens. And you can see they're all in 2-horse straight load trailers, which a lot of horse people, I'm also a horse person, they don't want 2 horses. They're goosenecks these days, which I have one, and they want big ones. So I was able to pick up these fairly cheap out of people's back rows and make them into another use. The reason I went with metal trailers for my mobile coops is because most of the stuff you see online are plastic. And what does Wyoming have a lot of? Wind. Lots of wind. It can book across here. I think the other day we just had 78 mile per hour winds out here. So I was like looking at those plastic models online. I was like, those are just going to blow over, or the plastic's only going to work a couple seasons. I need something a little sturdier, and I need something affordable. And so I went with the metal ones. I've never had one blow over, so that's pretty good. And if really easy to move, I have a Polaris Ranger. They just have chickens in them, and you're just moving them 1 footprint forward. So right we're standing here. We move the coops on Fridays. They move once a week. So they were just here, and then yesterday we moved them 1 footprint forward. A couple weeks back they were here, but they were in each spot for all the preceding weeks going that direction. And you can see, you can't even tell that those chickens were there. And when they came out from Winter Corners on April 1st, they started down here at the irrigation ditch, and they went that way along that side of the pasture. And again, you cannot see that they went through there at this time. And then they go up to the house and they make a big turn, and then they work their way back. One of the reasons that it's important to move them is chickens' poop is really high in nitrogen. So if you leave them in one spot, if you guys have chickens, they kill the grass. And that's one thing I wanted to avoid, having this much poultry. And the other thing that really gives them is it gives them fresh stuff to eat. So you can see they love to dig. And if you have chickens, if they get into your flower bed, everything's out. And so right there, you can see they made their little dust baths and they had lots of fun. So again, it gives them new fresh stuff to eat, and it also moves them off their manure, which keeps them healthier. So they pooped in one spot for a week and move them forward. One thing that's really important with having pastured poultry, though, is that you do have large livestock. This is irrigated. You may have seen the irripod, the white sprinkler heads we walk past. And the grass will get too tall for them. They can't walk through it. They can't utilize it. And so I lease to cattle and I board horses. And you can see the cows on the other side of the ditch. The chickens don't go that far from the house. They stay up here, but the cows come to the chickens and they do a rotation, which really is a synergistic relationship. I don't own the cows. I lease to a neighbor cattle rancher, which is also helpful for both of us. The breed here in the white coop is the Partridge Chanticleers, and they might get a little scared because so many people walking up to them. But the Partridge Chanticleers are a Canadian breed. They are very well suited to cold climates, being from Canada, and so they're doing really well in Wyoming. They're my newest breed. I've only had them for 2 years. You can see that there's a bunch of little ones. I've already moved in my replacement pullets. So they're the smaller ones in there. The next coop over here, these are the Salmon Faverolles. They are a French class breed, and they are French fancy. They have the muffs, they have feathers on their feet. They've gotten the nickname Toasted Marshmallows. They're just very fluffy and fun. All these are called poultry nets. They're also mobile. They step in, we just move them forward one. It's super easy. And then the next coop down here, we have the Dominiques. And we got one rooster right there. He's in the middle of his molt, so he's looking a little rough right now. The Dominiques are known for being the first breed of written record in the U.S. So their first written record of them was in 1790, which is a long time ago. And a lot of folks are like, oh, they look like barred rocks, which the barred rocks were developed from Dominiques. So the same stripe pattern. Differences between Dominiques and the barred rocks. Dominiques have a rose comb versus the single comb of the barred rocks. And the barred rocks are bred to be a larger carcass size. You can probably see a difference if you've been around barred rocks. They're a lot bigger than the Dominiques here. One reason to think about comb style in Wyoming is that the lower combs are less prone to frostbite. These coops are unheated. I do an open type of coop here. It's called a fresh air model. And so all winter, that chicken wire on the back stays open. So in the winter, I park them up by the barn, and that is to the south. Two reasons to have the fresh air type of coop style is fresh air, right, all year round, but also lower humidity. So when coops are really closed up, not only is it lower air quality for chickens, but it has a higher humidity level, and that is what frostbites their comb. So if you have a coop that's really closed up, definitely think about how you can keep some drier air going through there. Here in Wyoming, not a big deal. We're already a dry climate. If you're in Mississippi, way worse, right? Even though it's warmer down there. So the breeds I have selected here have been selected for cold climate, and that's comb styles, it's plumage, and then they're also been selected for dual purpose. And the dual purpose is that they're good both for egg laying as well as meat. And so these hens are good for laying eggs, and then the roosters, they can be butchered for meat because they get large enough. And the Dominiques are the smaller body frame, but if we see the Wyandotte rooster over here, so these are the blue-laced red Wyandottes, and I don't know if we'll get a view of the rooster, but there he is. So there he is. You can see the roosters have quite a big frame size to them. The blue-laced red Wyandottes are the highest population of all the breeds that I have. They actually aren't even officially accepted by the American Poultry Association. They're the new color, and they're very pretty. The other breeds are very rare. So the salmon Faverolles are the rarest. There's only 5,000 of them registered worldwide. The Dominiques and the Chanticleers would be the next rarest down. The Chanticleers are very difficult to get in the U.S. There's only 2 hatcheries that hatch those chicks here in the U.S., and I'm the only one that ships hatching eggs. So from these chickens, they're baby chicks and started pullets that I sell are available for delivery in Wyoming, or folks will come in from out of state to pick them up. But then I ship their hatching eggs nationally, and I shipped to over 30 states this year. So a lot of poultry keepers are looking for these breeds and wanting to add them to their flock. And the reason I've chosen to not ship the live poultry and just do eggs is because our mail is fairly slow here. So it's difficult for me to get them out. I can get them across Wyoming really fast, but not further afield. Massachusetts is a lot slower, or Alaska, or things like that. I have shipped a lot of eggs to Alaska. I've only shipped eggs to Hawaii once, which was fun. The funny thing is that customer chose the Chanticleers, and I was like, "These are a Canadian breed. What are you doing with it in Hawaii?" Whatever. Customers always right. Go enjoy the chickens. They go up to winter quarters so that they have heated water dish. So I run extension cords out for heated water dishes. They also have radiant heaters in their nest boxes to keep the eggs from freezing, and they have a 60-watt bulb to extend their daylight to stay and lay. So these chickens, the hens are going into rest period right now, and then I bring them back into lay in December because I manage them for hatch season. I hatch from March to May, so I want them at their height of lay in February when I start shipping hatching eggs. So they get November off, and then December, I start giving them more and more light till they're coming into lay, which is difficult to do because this is our coldest, darkest time of the year. So they do have supplemental lighties. I do grind my own feed. So a breeder layer ration is different than an egg layer ration. So I have a poultry nutrition consultant, and I have a ration specifically for these laying hens. Because a hen needs to eat the right nutrients before she lays the egg for it to have a viable embryo for hatching. As you can see, these guys got a treadle feeder, which is something that's really key in poultry care. It keeps out pest birds and mice and other rodents from the chicken feed, and so it really eliminates waste. Also, pest birds carry a lot of avian diseases like coccidiosis, so you really want to keep them out of your coops. Chickens learn it real fast because they get a food reward, right? I work for food too. And so they learn real fast to stand on the treadle and operate it to open the flap. Another thing that's really key is the nipple waters, because that removes water attractant in the coop and it keeps their water cleaner for the birds themselves, which is really helpful as well. Another key factor that makes poultry care really easy is that I call them smart doors. I have solar powered doors that have a photovoltaic sensor. So there's a solar panel on the roof and then there's a sensor right here. So it automatically adjusts to daylight. I don't have to do anything. That sensor is just, close the door earlier, open it later, and then it adjusts in the summer as well. Other than that, you'll see that there's a nest box up in the nose of the trailer, and I use roll-away nest boxes. So they're slanted, the hens lay the eggs, and it rolls down and goes into a collection area. This keeps the eggs a lot cleaner, and then it also keeps them away from the hens. They have less chance of breaking them and then eating them and deciding they really like eggs and then become egg eaters. And if you all have worked with that before, you know it's really hard to break hens once they get into that habit. So that's a nice management tool as well. You can see there's an older hen that just went up the ramp there. She's got a colored band and also has an ID number on it. So to ship out of state, I have health certified underneath the USDA APHIS, their National Poultry Improvement Program. And for that, they are tested for avian influenza and pulmonary typhoid. And they have to be individually ID'd like a cow has an ear tag, because when the sample goes to the state lab, they have to track it all the way back to the exact chicken. And it's just nice for IDing when you have a lot of animals. So the other thing that I do is I use colors to do age. It's nice to know ages of hens, so the different colors are different ages. It's really important for me to keep my purebreds separate. So you can see there's a whole lot more chickens over here, and all the breeds are combined together. These are called the McNuggets. These guys are the roosters that I hatched. People are buying the female chicks to lay eggs. No one wants roosters. And so they stay here and I raise them up on pasture and then they're butchered. We've already done 2 rounds of butchering this year. And I sell packaged whole chicken meat from these guys. But you can see they got lots of good weight on them to be butchered as their dual purpose. So all these roosters were hatched this spring. And some of the larger ones, they're going to be my replacement breeders. So they're a little bit older because they're going to stay with me. Another thing that they're doing is they're going through the garlic beds. So the garlic was planted over here this year. It's harvested in July. I had a little bit of a failed cover crop scenario, lots of weeds. It was an attempt. They're still loving it. They do eat thistle. They will kill it, especially this many roosters in a pen, which is right handy for them to do. And they also give their fertilization and pest control, which is important to the garlic beds here. That's the older pen. You may notice a size difference in that green coop. And this one's a younger one. Also, there's some pullets in here that are for sale. So there's some Favreau pullets and some Buckeye pullets that are for sale in here, hanging out with the younger roosters. So my 5th breed, we haven't seen yet. They're a free range up in the yard, the Buckeyes. I don't need to do their nails. They're in the driveway, scratching around. They're in the horse corral. They don't need ash. They've got the horse corral to dig in. So I don't have to clip their nails, but these guys on grass, they just can't get enough traction or something on their nails. So yeah, I generally do that twice a year. In the spring, I'll go through, I check bands and I do nails all at the same time. For the garlic, it's grown organically. I'm in the process of getting certified USDA organic. And so it's mulched and then it has weed fabric on it for weed control. The weed fabric's been removed now. And you can also see it was fenced off with posts, and really important because cows love garlic. So this year, you can see I moved my fence 5 feet from the edge and I did a 3-strand. Cool. Let's go up and do some garlic tasting. And I was also going to show you the hatchery and brooder rooms on that walk here. Brooders in there, which are just rolled against the wall right now because there's no chicks. But you also see a lot of garlic. So that garlic will be sold. It's also seed garlic. It'll store to 8 to 10 months, especially these hardneck varieties. So hardnecks do better in the cold climates. Soft necks are generally sold down south. When you get it like all together, it's whoa. It's cured for 3 weeks. So we harvest it about mid-July. We pull it in and we cure it. Hung in my barn for about 3 weeks. We have a garlic bee, which some of you guys have been out and helped with. Or I invite a bunch of folks over. Some of my chef friends come and make a beautiful meal. And we just sit around and we clip the roots off and clip off the stems, process the garlic, and then we crate it up by variety and put it in the form that you currently see in the brood room. This room was built specifically, there's 2 rooms. We're going to go look at the other one. It's a hatchery room and a brooder room. They were built specifically for this. And then we also insulated the walls of this brooder room for a walk-in cooler. It's to R25 for that use. Another special thing was the double doors. That is just to get the brooders in and out. Those big decks of brooders. They don't fit through a normal door. And then there's also drains on the floor, which is something I loved this spring. This building was finished in June, so it's totally new. And it does have an apartment on top as well. It's being rented out. But you guys can come over here and look in the hatchery room. So the hatchery room, this is where the incubators are in the hatcher. So the eggs are all set in there. It's also a little bit more of a clean room. You see the sink in there, the shelving. Chicks, if you've raised them, put off a lot of dandruff. So the brooder room gets very dusty when chicks are in it. Another reason, there's FRP on the walls. It can be hosed down and cleaned and disinfected. But that hatchery room is the clean room for the units there. And then also that's where the hatching eggs are stored. So you'll see if there's a wine chiller in the corner, if you guys are wine aficionados. Hatching eggs need to be stored at 50 to 60 degrees. Not a regular refrigerator, but a wine chiller will get to that temperature. They do make specialized equipment for holding hatching eggs. I'm not big enough to get I just bought a wine chiller. So what we have here is I pulled out 3 varieties of garlic. I grow 5 different varieties, but 5 is a lot to test in a row. So help me keep the dogs out of the crackers. And what I did with it is it's raw garlic. So it's just minced with a little bit of olive oil and salt. It is very strong. You're not going to need a lot to taste it. The other thing I made was a black garlic hummus. So black garlic is a new product I'm making. This is what the cloves look like after being fermented for 8 weeks. They turn black, and that's why it's called black garlic. It has an umami molasses taste to it. It does not really taste like garlic, but like a lot of things that are fermented, there's beneficial health properties to it. And it really pairs well with either sweet or savory. It enhances chocolate like coffee does. So it's really nice flavor on that. But I just did a black garlic hummus for us to try here. And then I also, some water, because I recognize you're going to be tasting a lot of garlic if you can eat it. And then I pulled out some of the value-added products I have, which is black garlic, garlic powder, and peeled garlic. So feel free to come on up and try the different types. So Georgian Fire, that gentleman is dipping into right there, is the strongest one I have. It's from the Republic of Georgia, and it has the highest allicin content in it. Camisole Wild is a really mild flavor over here. It is thought to be the first garlic in the U.S., in Americas. It was found growing wild on Camisole Creek in the New Mexican mountains. The lore is that the Spanish conquistadors brought it, but what they did was they re-domesticated it and started selling it as seed. And then Pihaski Purple, which is the variety in the middle, is a Polish variety out of Wisconsin, and that's like a medium flavor on that one. And I did it really strong, knowing that you guys might just get like a cracker of black garlic on there. I put more black garlic in that hummus, and I wanted folks to really get a good flavor. Most of the time I use black garlic to enhance. And this hummus, I should have maybe stated that right at the beginning. This hummus I intentionally, last night was like, put more in. But that's not a little more flavor. So there's a lot of black garlic in that. So these are beeswax wraps, if they're new to you, like the Edward Perry. Yeah. And these were an intern project this summer. I had 2 interns a year, and one of them, Bella, is a watercolorist. And so she worked with Gail Barnett, who's another artist in town. And Gail coached her how to paint my chickens. So after seeing the chickens, who do you think this is? What breed? Test. Dominiques, yes. Bella painted the Dominiques. And then we digitized her artwork, and we went down to Deneen Donahoe at Snow Deep Designs, and Deneen taught Bella, again, how to take something and screen print it. Bella's just a sophomore in college, so new skills to her. And then, of course, put the Milsoft logo on it. And then the sheets are from Methodist Thrift Store. We went and got King sheets and just reused them, and then I dipped them in the beeswax and pines resin. And so that was a fun project for us this summer, and now we're selling them. Keeps it stickier so that it attaches to itself and folds. And I like them when they're big enough to wrap around stuff. Sometimes you buy them and they're like this. I'm like, no, not useful. So we cut our sheets really large. They're 12 by 15. And they are available at Meadowlark Market in town if you want to purchase some, as well as the garlic powder, the peeled garlic, and the black garlic, and bulb garlic. There's 3 varieties available down at Meadowlark right now. And I haven't really talked about the chicken products. We saw their McNuggets, but I also sell packaged whole chicken meat. I sell necks. I sell all the organ meats. I sell the feet. And I sell organ meats, feet, necks before I sell the actual chicken meat. They're very popular. People love them for the dogs, or they love them for their own use. I also raise ducks on pasture. They're gone now. They're in the freezer. They're not totally gone. And raise duck meat with pastured ducks as well. And so they're just a midsummer thing. They come and go real fast. But I found that my customers really ate duck meat. So, favorite garlic? Oh, black garlic. Georgian fire. Somebody else like Camisole Wild. That's why they have wild on it. It was wild on the creek. And it was Camisole Creek. So fun stories. You may notice I like stories. So I have 5 heritage breeds. They all have their unique story. We haven't seen the Buckeyes yet, but they're the red birds. That's their coop right there. They're not mobile. They just free range. They go way out to the windbreak, around the house. But their story is they're out of Ohio, Buckeye, yeah. But they are the only American class poultry breed started by a female. Nettie Mae Metcalf in the late 1800s was unsatisfied by the chickens available to her at the time, so she bred her own. And she wanted them to be really good foragers, so she bred her laying hens to game birds. And you will notice that these roosters still have a little goose step, like a pheasant. And they're extremely good foragers, extremely good free range. And that breed, because it's really good, still exists today. And so it's a fun history. But she left a lot of first-person accounts of her breeding of chickens. So they all have lots of fun stories. Same with the garlic. They all have story. They're all heirloom garlic variety breeds. And right now we're in the rhubarb garden. So this used to be where the garlic was. Right now it's about a 1/4 acre. At one point it was much smaller. It actually was half of that bed at one point. And then expansion just kept continuing. So when I moved it out to larger scale and also moved it to surface water irrigation, I was like, what am I going to do with these beds? It's already got a fence around it to keep mainly the chickens out, and had a lot of soil amendments. And so I decided to start raising rhubarb. So you see quite a bit of rhubarb in here. It's going to be more rhubarb, and all of these are rare heirloom varieties as well. And then we do a little bit of different stuff in between the rhubarb beds, but this will be the next Melissa Hoff product. I did not sell any the last 2 years. Rhubarb takes a while to establish, but then it's a perennial. Out of Crowheart, there's a gal, Alicia Rux. She's a sheep rancher, and she makes wool pellets for putting in soil amendments because it retains moisture for potted plants or in your garden. And I was talking to Alicia, and I was like, I got way too much space to buy your pellets. And she was like, just try taking some wool pre-pelletization and putting it around the rhubarb plants as a mulch and to retain the moisture. Because rhubarb when it gets started, needs a lot of water. And so I did try it. I think it did work. I can see that even through the weed fabric, there's more moisture on the weed fabric right where the wool is located. I love rhubarb savory. I make rhubarb pizza out of it. I make a rhubarb salsa. I make a rhubarb barbecue sauce. And there is a cookbook out of Denmark that I recommend you buy online. And I think it's just called rhubarb. Yeah, because a lot of food, you just think about pie or jam with rhubarb. People also dehydrate it and make rhubarb chips with it. People make rhubarb salt with it. There's quite a few different uses. I have, for rhubarb varieties, I think I have about 7 different types here. But they all have, just like with the garlic, they have a different flavor profile. Some are more red, some are more green, and they do have different flavor to them, which is unique that way. And chicken meat does the same. The last 2 years, I've done a chicken meat taste test, and I've challenged my friends to it, and they come to the table with their own chicken. And you can taste the difference, actually, between the chicken, right? Variety and diet. Yeah, an animal tastes like what they eat. Last 2 years, like the broiler hybrids are very different than my heritage breeds because they grow so fast. So they're hatched to harvest in 8 weeks. And they have a very different meat and flavor profile than these heritage breeds. Even though both are raised on pasture, you could taste the difference in the contest. And it wasn't totally scientific. I have a different feed ration than they do for their broilers, things like that. But it's mainly the amount of time they were out on the land and eating. So 8 weeks to my 25 weeks is a big difference on the flavor profile of chicken. And also my chicken meat is darker because they're more active. You saw those roosters out there, they can do this all day long. And so it's a little bit darker. For those of you who raise chickens, so I mentioned my feed ration is something I mix myself. It is in that grain wagon that's tarped on that flatbed. So I work with a local cattle rancher to grind feed from oats and corn grown here in Fremont County. And then I add oyster shell and the other things that poultry need into it. And I use about 12 tons a year. So I definitely need a large place to keep it. Feel free to eat more garlic hummus on your way out. Yeah, dig in.
Thanks for tuning in to Wyoming's Wind River Country, Yellowstone's unique neighbor. Visit us at windriver.org and follow Wyoming's Wind River Country on Facebook and Instagram. This podcast has been brought to you by the Wind River Visitors Council.